Hello everyone, it's Mrs. Fontra here, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite times in all of art history, and that is the Renaissance. Can you say Renaissance? Renaissance. It's really kind of a fun word to say. So let's jump right in and talk about how it fits into the rest of art history, all right? Renaissance was around 1400 or 1400 to 1600 CE, or people call it AD sometimes too. So that's like our common era. This is kind of close to where we are today. And Renaissance actually means rebirth or renewal, or kind of like bringing something back to life. And before the Renaissance, Europe fell into this time known as the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages. And the Renaissance was about rediscovering the old ways that the Greeks and Romans used to do things, all right? So they started to value education more, and science and art, which is why we're talking about it. Literature and writing and music and people, they started to kind of bring back some old values from the ancient times. And some very famous artists during these times, and we'll talk a little bit more about them, are Donatello, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. Okay, maybe those names sound a little familiar, and we'll talk about why in just a minute. But if you think, whoa, wait a second, like what all happened in between there? Because we talked about cave art earlier this year. We talked about ancient Mesopotamian art, and usually we talk about ancient Egyptian art as well. We kind of do those every other year, but what happened in between? So let me show you with art and how things kind of changed, all right? So if you look back at sculptures from ancient Egyptian times, they were pretty like new, and like there was a new thing to do. So the people didn't look quite as realistic, and they had their arms kind of close to the body so they wouldn't get broken off. But as time went on with the Greeks and the Romans, they learned how to get pretty good at making these sculptures look like actual people. You can see from the timeline of how the statues changed, they look more and more realistic, right? All the way up to the Romans with that really realistic looking robe that she has on with all those frillies and those blowing in the wind. Looks really realistic, right? But then after the Romans came these Middle Ages or the Dark Ages. And you can see on the left there is a sculpture from the Roman times that's very detailed, very realistic. You can see like the fabric, it looks like a real person almost, right? But in the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages, art wasn't really as important anymore. They wanted art for one main reason, and that was to kind of tell the story of Christianity or religion, because that's what was really important about at that time. So it didn't really matter if the art was as realistic as it used to be, as long as it told the story they wanted, okay? So that's why art changed, because they valued or thought things were more important, which happens sometimes in history, right? And so this is where the Renaissance comes back into play, where we bring these old ideas back, these old styles, these old things that are important, and here we are, all right? So, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, there are four very famous artists from this time, Donatello, Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, and Michelangelo, and you might know them from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, I'm not sure who created this show or thought it'd be good to name them after Renaissance artists, but hey, it's an easy way to remember all of them, right? So, I like to pretend that they're the heroes, though. Give them the masks and the superpowers. So, let's get into some art that's new from the Renaissance and compare it to some art that we may have seen from other classes. So, for example, this is from, this piece on the right is cave art with two bisons. It's just a sculpture with clay around some rocks in a cave. And the one on the left from the Renaissance is called The Pieta by Michelangelo. Now, normally in class, we have a big discussion to see what is similar or what's different. So maybe take a minute to think, how are these similar? How are these different? One thing that's similar is they're both three-dimensional. They're both something made out of clay or marble. So it's something you could walk around and see all the way around. But one thing that's very different is even though they're both realistic, you can both tell what they are. They're people and animals. Well, one of them is animals and one of them is a person and people, and they're very realistic, right? It almost looks like you could put your hands right into that lady's robes. It looks like real, right? I know a lot of people, when they see this piece at first, they think, oh my gosh, like there's a dude that's just laying there. Well, the story behind this piece is that it's Mary and Jesus after her son died. So it's supposed to be really kind of a sad piece. So he wouldn't be wearing a full piece suit, right? He died. So it's kind of sad. But anyway, the whole point of the Renaissance is being realistic and kind of having some religious stories behind it too, to kind of bring the Middle Ages together with the Renaissance. So that's how that kind of works. All right. So again, very, very realistic, right? Here's another one to kind of look at, the Renaissance versus ancient Egyptian. The painting from the Renaissance is done by Raphael. And the one on the right, we don't know the artist because it's so old, but maybe you can see that they are both people, right? They're both people that are painted, but the one from the Renaissance by Raphael is very realistic, right? You can see those pudgy little baby arms. It looks like you could just give a baby a little pinch on the cheek. It's so realistic, right? There's light and dark and medium values all through it. Like the Egyptian one is all just solid black hair or solid skin or solid colors. It's very solid. But even just looking at like this lady's red shirt, look how many different types of red are mixed in, right? There's light red, medium red, dark red, there's shadows. There's so many, many colors in that, right? So it looks a little bit more realistic. Right? All right, on to one more to show you. We'll be talking about some more Impressionist artists in the future here, but one of them we like talking about is Claude Monet, and you can see his painting on the right with lots of bright colors and kind of a sunset, a little fuzzy looking. And the one on the left is a painting by Leonardo da Vinci, right? You can see, again, I think the big theme here is it's very realistic, right? You can see the people, there's an angel, there's a garden, there's some landscape in the way back. It looks pretty realistic. Monet has really bright colors. And do they have as bright of colors from the Renaissance? Not as bright as Monet. And then his artwork was made a couple hundred years later, so they had better paints then. So the colors are much brighter for Impressionist and Monet's kind of art. All right. So from here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to get out of here for just a second, but I'm going to be getting into what your grades project is, because it might be based on one of the artists we learned about or maybe some other common thing from Renaissance. So stay tuned and find out. So third grade, your project is going to be all about Mona Lisa. Now, the name should be familiar to you, and we didn't really talk about her in detail in our presentation today. But this is a black and white copy of the Mona Lisa. Maybe that sounds or looks a little more familiar. This was done by Leonardo da Vinci. And the reason why this painting is probably the most famous painting in the world, or like at least one of the most recognizable, because there's lots of stories and like controversy or like, oh no, you didn't kind of stories about the Mona Lisa. It was stolen a few times. We don't know a whole lot about Lisa. We think her name was Lisa. And we don't, and her eyes just like follow you around the room when you're walking past. So we're going to be doing a modern Mona Lisa. So don't worry, she has all these like Renaissance style clothing and this fancy background behind her. But it's going to be up to you to make her more modern. And we'll talk about what you could do in just a second here. But for this project, you're going to need at least a piece of paper and a pencil. I would recommend getting coloring things of some type, like colored pencils, crayons, or markers. Markers you can't really mix together, but I think this is a fun project to mix some colors. So if you have things that you can mix together, maybe oil pastels too, that'd be fun. So let me talk to you about how do we draw a person sitting down like that, okay? So switching my cameras over here. I think it is very helpful to have a reference photo or something to look at while you're drawing. So if you would like to open up your Chromebook and look for a picture of Mona Lisa while you draw, that is a great idea. So maybe find another screen or come back to this or whatever you need to do to make this work. All right. So I always like starting at the head. All right. It's a kind of just a nice big circle here. So I'm going to start not at the very top, definitely not at the bottom, but I'm going to start towards the top and do kind of this bigger head shape. Okay. It's kind of like an oval, Okay, nice little oval, kind of looks like an egg a little bit, maybe less pointy than an egg. Okay. From there, we got to draw our neck because you can't just have a head floating around by itself. We're going to attach it to a body. So I'm going to just kind of near, not the very bottom, but over close to the side, I'm going to draw kind of a curving line down. It's not like a perfectly straight, just like a little dip that goes in a little. And on this side, I'm going to do another one. Kind of dips in and goes out a little bit. Kind of like a tree trunk a little bit. From here, it's going to be different for everybody because we're going to start like planning what you want your Mona Lisa to wear. Now I know I can hear my virtual voice from here going, oh, I don't want to draw a girl. Well, you can make her the biggest gamer, sports fan, like whatever you want. Okay, you can make her wearing a Minecraft t-shirt, whatever. So you can make, I mean, I've drawn Mona Lisa with a Packers jersey on before. You can make her whatever you want or whatever you want her to wear. So just for this example, I'm going to draw her with a t-shirt. If you want to do a dress, you're more than welcome to. It's going to look different, so I might give you a few different examples. But I'm going to put a neckline where her t-shirt kind of ends. Okay, kind of swoops down, and that's where your neck is. And from here, we got to do some shoulders. All right. And for Mona Lisa, her shoulder on one side is kind of tilted away from us, kind of backwards, and the other one is closer to us. You can see this whole arm very, very well. So over on my left side over here, I'm just going to draw like a little bit of a slant going down. Okay, that's going to be kind of where her shoulder ends up here. And on the other side, I'm going to do kind of a longer slant because we can see that one a little bit more. Okay, looks kind of lopsided right now, but we'll get there, I promise. Right from here, we're going to do our arms down. Okay, move my paper up a little bit. We're going to do just like our forearm, like where your muscles are. You're going to draw your forearms going down a little bit to not the bottom of the paper, but just down and down. And normally you can see I have a kind of like an angle right here. It looks kind of like sharp, and people normally don't have sharp angles. So if you need to make it a little more curvy, that's fine. Okay, you can kind of erase, make it look a little bit more like a human. That's great. And from here, I said I'm going to do a short sleeve shirt. So I'm going to say where my sleeves end. I'm going to say they end here. I'm going to do kind of a curving line here. And then Mona Lisa on this arm is going to be maybe a little taller because it's further away from us. All right. And from here, I'm going to draw the rest of her body going straight down. Okay. Now, I don't want to get too much at the bottom because we got to add those hands. Hands are tricky. I totally understand. It's not the easiest thing. So let's talk about making them kind of just like flippers for right now. That makes it a little easier to think about versus like finger, and the spaces and the gaps. So let's think about them as little like seal flippers, okay? So from our left side, I'm just going to kind of make her forearm, her bottom half of her arm, like right here, come down and then kind of come down. And it's a little smaller than her big arm, her bicep, which is right. And like I said, I'm going to kind of do a flipper. So I'm going to do like it flips that way and it flips that way. Okay, kind of make it look like a mitten a little bit. Maybe have a thumb over here. Okay, don't worry, we can worry about details and all that good stuff later. For our other arm, we're going to have it coming into this one again. And this one you can kind of see there's just like the finger. So we're going to pretend that's like the end of a mitten. So I'm just going to put like a big old circle right here. And from here, like I said, we can start adding those details, right? So if we know that there are some fingers that kind of go at a diagonal right here, why don't we add some like diagonal lines? It looks a little bit more like fingers. And then you're like, oh, well, it's not a perfect circle. Maybe we just make those more like fingers. So I'll just add like a letter U underneath it. Okay, looks more like a fish that way. Okay. Same idea with the top hand. I'm going to say, okay, let's say there's a finger that kind of curves over this way, and curves over this way. We can just, like I said, we're not expecting to draw the perfect Mona Lisa. Leonardo da Vinci spent like 6+ years on this. So if your hands aren't perfect the first time down, that's okay. We can always practice that too as we get older. Now, right now she's just a floating top half of her body. Okay. Let's give her some legs. So kind of where these arms end, I'm just going to go line, line. Okay. And from there, you could start adding like pants in or shorts or a skirt, or if you wanted to do a dress, you could do more, because some people think in dress you could do some more like a strap here and a strap there, and it kind of goes around the arms. So if you want to do something like, oh, that almost looks like an apron, you can do a chef Mona Lisa. That all works too. But anyway, before I get into like the little details here, let's talk about her face, right? Normally, people like putting eyes up really tall, but in real life, your eyes are more towards the middle, okay? Because a lot of your head's covered in hair. So let's do kind of that football shape, those shapes in the middle of our head, okay? So I'll do 2 curved lines for like the top of our eyelid, and then I'll do a bottom eyelid right here. Another kind of curvy line. And Mona Lisa, she's got this fun like side eye. Her circles, her irises aren't in the middle. They're kind of towards the corners a little bit. So let's move our eyes towards the corners a little bit. So I'm gonna do kind of a curve over here. It looks like she's kind of looking to the right, and I'm going to do another one over here. So she looks like she's kind of checking out who's behind her, right? The one thing that looks kind of goofy right now, though, is we need eyelids. So give her some eyelids by adding another curved line up here. And maybe you could even do some eyelashes if you're feeling ambitious or like going above and beyond, some eyelashes, okay? And from there, let's do a nose. I like kind of, I put some pupils in too, so she can see a little bit better, those dots in your eyes. From there, I'm gonna do a nose. I'm just gonna keep it simple. Just kind of do a curving line here. And you can do like some darker spots for her nostrils, where if she got a blower nose, she can get it all out. And I'll do kind of a little curve on top to look like the top, okay? You can do a little bit of lines coming down her nose. Okay, nothing too dark. And then I like having her that little smile. So I'll do a straight line that curves up a little bit. And then maybe giving her some lips so she can talk. Okay, so I just do one curve underneath and kind of 2 hills on the top. All right, she looks pretty crazy without hair. So let's give her some sort of hair, okay? You could do a mohawk, you could do just long hair. I like kind of giving her her hairline around here and then just doing kind of straight hair down, because she got more like lightly wavy hair. And just, you could have some of it come on her shoulders or just go behind her. It's up to you. So you have a pencil, you can erase and change things to make it look like her hair's on top, right? So it's up to you to style her hair as well. The one interesting thing too about Mona Lisa, normally people have eyebrows, and back in the Renaissance, they didn't do eyebrows. They actually like waxed their eyebrows off because that was fashionable back then. Sounds kind of silly today, but that's what they did. So if you want to make her more modern, give her some eyebrows so she looks a little bit more like a gal you would find today. Okay? So from here, it's totally up to you to decide how modern Mona gets, okay? You could definitely go like sports route. You could do trendy. You could do like huge bun on top of her head. You can go really far. You could do sweaters, woo, sweaters. You can do like so many things. This is like a perfect blank canvas to put things onto, okay? Like I said, you could do Minecraft, video games, whatever you really want to. You put a bunch of horses on there, dogs, okay? The one thing I'm asking though too, you do need to put Mona somewhere, okay? So if you want to keep it really simple, you could just put put a horizontal line and trees to make it look like she's outside in a landscape. Or you could put her somewhere really specific. So for example, if you have like someone going to a basketball game, you could put a basketball court in the background. Okay, it's really up to you to decide. But the one thing I really want to see is everything is colored. Okay, maybe like a white t-shirt or like a little bit of white for like something in the hair. But I want to see a lot of color because this was entirely painted in. There wasn't like a big white spot anywhere. So when you are done with yours, would you please turn them into the Google Classroom so I can take a peek and mark them off in my books? All right, I'm really excited to see what you come up with because this is one of those projects you can really dive in and get really creative. So if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. But otherwise, I'm really looking forward to seeing what your modern Mona Lisas look like. All right, happy creating!